Good morning, everyone. My name is Lake Paraguay. I am a Portland, Oregon-based attorney, and I'm here today with these wonderful people to announce the filing of the lawsuit, Hadachek versus the state of Oregon. This lawsuit asserts a constitutional challenge to ensure that all children are equally protected under the law from genital cutting. And I am assisted in this effort by Eric Klopper, Samer Zaffarini, and Peter Adler. And I'd like to introduce Eric Klopper, who will tell you a little bit more about this landmark lawsuit. Eric.
Thank you so much, Lake. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, friends, listeners, the great city of Portland, and all of those of you watching from around the globe. My name is Eric Klopper, and all of us here are standing on the courthouse steps in the great city of Portland, Oregon, because we believe in equality. We believe in science, and we believe in the rights of each and every child to be safe from harm. Over 25 years ago, Oregon took a critical first step in securing these rights when it expressly outlawed female genital mutilation, or FGM, in all its forms. The law's drafters said they wanted to send a message that this conduct is not acceptable in the state of Oregon. Soon enough, the whole nation came to recognize the abhorrence of FGM. 41 states and the federal government quickly made this type of conduct, this harm against our baby girls in this country, illegal. Now, a quarter century later, human rights advocates have returned to Portland to take the next step in the mission to protect all children from harm. Over the past 48 hours, we've convened doctors, professors, human rights lawyers, and religious thinkers right here in Portland to consider a fundamental question. Why is female genital cutting illegal while male genital cutting is not? It's often said that male and female circumcision can't be compared. For decades, opponents of circumcision have been dismissed with laughter or ridicule. It's just a piece of skin. Who could possibly care? But as medical associations across Europe and the English-speaking world have come to recognize, male genital cutting deprives boys and men of something they'll never know they lost. The growing worldwide consensus is that cutting kids is an abject human rights violation regardless of sex. Indeed, in Europe, the conversation has moved past weighing the supposed pros and cons of cutting kids to debating whether the practice should be banned entirely. Like cigarette smoking or leaded gasoline, the harms of genital cutting are difficult for us to admit because so many people have been harmed. It took decades of lobbying, lawsuits, and activism to convince America that smoking kills. But everyone smokes, tobacco defenders said. My grandma smoked every day, and she lived to 99. But over time, the culture shifted, and we now recognize that smoking is harmful for both obvious and hidden ways. Genital cutting is no different. Millions of boys each year are cut in the most personal part of their bodies, and society's answer has been shrug it off. Everyone gets circumcised. Women prefer it. But these hollow, unscientific responses are like what pro-tobacco lobbyists said just a few decades ago Neither are the so-called health benefits an excuse to cut healthy children at birth. New science has debunked these claims of purported health benefits of circumcision. And in Europe, the vast majority of men are uncircumcised, and they have far lower rates of sexually transmitted diseases than in America. It is time for all of us to face the simple fact that cutting off parts of children is wrong. Whether male, female, or intersex, every child deserves control over their own bodies. Unlike vaccines, genital cutting removes a significant amount of functional tissue, and medical associations across Europe universally condemn genital cutting of all kids. Over the next decade, you will see this nation undergo a human rights revolution on a massive scale. And it starts right here in Oregon. Late last week, with the support of the nonprofit Intact Global and Lake Paraguay, who established marriage equality as a constitutional right here in Oregon before it became a national constitutional right. So round of applause for Lake. We filed a lawsuit in state court right here in Portland to give Oregon the chance to lead the charge to secure the human rights of all children. The case is called Hadachek v. Oregon. We've asked the court to expand the state's anti-FGM law to protect all children from forced genital cutting, regardless of sex. And we've asked the court to do this under the Equal Protection Clause and Equal Rights Amendment of the Oregon Constitution. We believe in a future where the law protects all children equally. And that future begins today. We also understand that male circumcision is a sensitive issue for many people. Although the vast majority of circumcisions aren't done for religious reasons in the United States, two of the world's oldest and most vibrant religions, Islam and Judaism, practice genital cutting of children on a regular basis. Out of respect for these faiths, we have not asked the Oregon court to ban religious circumcision. We want these religions to pursue reform on their own terms in their own communities. We are calling for an open dialogue with religious leaders in this area, as we can all agree that protecting children from harm is paramount. And religious reform has happened before. In 2006, the Grand Mufti of Egypt issued a religious ruling that FGM is inconsistent with Islam, despite many Muslims in North Africa genuinely disagreeing. He said that Islam is, without a doubt, a religion that adapts to modern science. And in New York City in 2012, after several babies died from herpes infections, Orthodox Jewish communities have stopped or changed the traditional practice of Mitzitza B'Pah, in which rabbis use their mouths to suck the blood from the infant's penis after circumcision. Mitzitza has become so uncommon these days that most Jewish Americans, like myself, probably don't even know that it still exists, or that it once was considered a mandatory part of the bris. These faiths have come to understand that protecting children from harm is the most Jewish or Islamic act possible. We hope that this lawsuit will be the impetus for religious leaders to reevaluate whether a practice from over 2,000 years ago still has a place in the modern day. And this lawsuit is just the beginning. While Oregon will lead the charge, Intact Global plans to sue states across the country to demand equality for all children. We want to ignite a national conversation on this issue, one that has gone under the radar for too long. We may live in divided times politically, but I think I speak for both sides of the aisle when I say protecting kids equally is a mission that we can all get behind. Democrats have fought hard for sex equality under the law. And RFK Jr. has promised to seriously evaluate long-standing medical practices and remove bias from health policy. He also asked, why do Americans have such worse health outcomes than Europeans? Well, I posit to you, RFK Jr., the routine male genital mutilation of our children is one of those reasons. And so I call on you, everyone watching here in Portland and from all corners of this nation and the globe. This Oregon lawsuit was made possible by over $30,000 of generous donations on GoFundMe. But we need your continued support to bring about this human rights revolution. We need plaintiffs. We need doctors. We need lawyers. We need volunteers. And we need resources. We need money. If you care about protecting children from harm and want to be part of the human rights movement of the 21st century, go to intactglobal.org to find out how you can help. If you're a lawyer or a doctor, we need your help. Go to intactglobal.org. If you're a parent and you want to sue your state for allowing genital cutting to happen to your child, go to intactglobal.org. And if you've been a victim of genital cutting yourself, we want to hear from you. You could be a plaintiff in one of our next lawsuits. You could be a leader in the human rights movement of the 21st century. Yeah. Finally, I call on each and every American, educate yourself on the science and the harms of genital cutting. Write to your state representatives to stop using our hard-earned taxpayer dollars to cut healthy children. Almost 20 states have defunded circumcision already, and New Hampshire's House has just passed a bill to do the same. And get comfortable talking about this problem in your daily lives. Circumcision is an issue that affects us all, and we need your help to bring it out into the open and into the light. It is time to get serious about children's human rights and to start fighting for change, and the fight starts right here in Oregon. This lawsuit would not have been possible without our generous donors, including Doctors Opposing Circumcision, GalDef, and NCFM, and over 100 donors on GoFundMe. So thank you. And thank you all for watching online and for those of you being here in Portland on this beautiful day. And most of all, I want to thank our brave plaintiffs. Dane Hadachek, who's leading the charge to protect children. Thank you, Dane. Along with his parents, Cecil and Sierra. And thank you, Carter Moody and Landon Moody, as well, for taking a stand for human rights right here in Oregon. And now, it is my great privilege to introduce to all of you one of the plaintiffs and one of my heroes in the Hadachek v. Oregon case, Sierra Hadachek, to share a few words as to why this movement is so important to her and her family. So big round of applause for Sierra Hadachek. Yes.
Lost in a busy hospital, charted as a number, and just another expectant mom to be. I felt very alone and without direction. After I delivered my son, I was quickly urged to do many things. Prior to my birthing stay, I had zero education on circumcision, why it was performed, why it was supposedly necessary, and definitely not educated on the possible repercussions. With no information other than urging and pushing, I made the appointment to have his necessary procedure done. At around 6 days old, I walked into the pediatrician's for my new baby's appointment. Him in his little car seat and his tiny little footy pajamas, looking up at me, knowing only warmth and love and comfort. Little did either of us know, it was the beginning of an excruciating endeavor that neither of us were prepared for. At merely 6 days old, my infant son experienced the most fright and pain that he would ever undergo in his life. And more to follow after the terrifying procedure was performed. They took him from me, suggested I wait in the lobby, and left me there to listen to the screams of his agony. Upon the completion, I was able to re-enter the room and comfort my freshly mutilated baby. I was told to keep it clean and watch for infection. That was it. Nothing as to what would await him throughout his childhood or into his later years with his first sexual partner. No information before and very little information after. My son would go on to have an infection that requires medication, antibiotics, and bandaging. One of the things the doctors didn't tell me was that in a diaper that routinely gets soiled with urine and feces, an infection is almost inevitable. They also did not warn me that every time I would change his diaper, it would stick to his fresh wound and pull it apart every single time, reopening his already very painful tissues. He would later in his teenage years find out on his own just how destructive that surgery would be and how much it would affect his sexual experiences negatively. Navigating sexual relationships is difficult as it is. Adding in trying to figure out how his penis works now has been torture. The guilt I feel for that single decision and how it has impacted him haunts me. I had a second son a few years later and went in with enough past knowledge to turn down and deny their very pushy efforts to get me to make that same mistake again.
Yeah. Woo! Out there.
Thank you. And then 11 years later, I birthed a baby girl and not a word was uttered of her circumcision. Thankfully, baby girls are protected now. What I seek now is equality and education. Everyone contemplating this decision should be given ample information and research opportunity long before the birthing process, especially young new moms lost in the hospital and desperately wanting to make the right decision for their babies. My child now has a fraction of the functionality that he would have had. But hey, at least it looks good. Thank you so much.